2013. As it draws to a close, we can see it was a pretty rad year for fans of comic books. Iron Man 3, Thor 2, Man of Steel. You could just forget that one. But it's especially a great time to be a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's right, our heroes in a half shell are on fire this year. Fans can buy the complete original series on DVD for the first time ever. The new cartoon is in its second season and still kicking ass. The new movie is finishing up production. Well, you can forget that one too. The toys are flying off the shelves, a new game is out, the classic comics have been reprinted in a fancy hardback edition, and Turtle Power is once again in the hearts and souls of youngsters everywhere. But amidst all the excitement, I feel like we're forgetting something. Now, let's see, what was it? 2013. Isn't this the year of something? Doctor Who? Well, I mean, yeah, but anniversary of something else? Oh yeah, the 2003 series. So let's take a brief look at the 2003 series and what it contributed to the franchise. Now, due to YouTube's copyright policy being a bit of a hot button issue at the moment, I'll be refraining from using clips of the show itself, even if technically I'd be within my rights as this follows under fair use and yada yada. Maybe I'll re-edit it and throw it up on blip.tv. Maybe not. Who knows? I'm lazy. Debuting on February 8th, 2003 on the now defunct Foxbox, this darker and grittier reboot of the Ninja Turtles seems to be often overlooked nowadays. And that's a real shame. Now, I get it. It wasn't as popular as the 80s show. But frankly, what is? You can't replicate that kind of success. But amongst people of a certain age, it's still fondly recalled as being the turtle show of a generation. Ask a college kid to sing the Ninja Turtles theme song, and they'll hum this show's tune. With Turtle co-creator Kevin Eastman as executive producer and creative guiding force, this show opted to adapt stories straight out of the comic books for many of its episodes. As such, it's probably the most faithful to the comics of any incarnation of the property. The creators got it. The comic is what sparked the wealth of creativity and imagination that followed in every version after. But many fan sides attempted seriousness to be not true to the spirit of what they grew up with, and I can see that. However, it's not like this show took itself too seriously. I mean, Mikey's still a wisecracking goofball, and Donatello's still coming up with ridiculously implausible inventions. It still feels like the Turtles to me. It is important to keep in mind that this show came out in a post-Batman the Animated Series world. Batman the Animated Series reinvented what people expected out of cartoons. It wasn't just filler to keep the kids distracted now. You could watch the show as an adult and be just as entertained, if not more so, than the kids. Dark storylines, tragic endings, intelligent writing, Batman had it all. Even the later seasons of the 80s TMNT tried to emulate it with the Red Sky seasons in the mid-90s. It was a whole new world. It's also important to note that in the late 90s, a little show nobody's ever heard of was released. You may know it as Pokemon. Suddenly, Japanese anime was in the public eye, and it was hot shit. So it made sense for the producers to try and play up the Japanese side of the show. After all, it is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, come on, they even have the Akira shot in the opening sequence of the fucking show. They weren't the only ones that cribbed on that shot, though. Batman Beyond was just as guilty. Needless to say, the landscape for cartoons was completely different than it was in the 80s. Of course, the show wasn't going to be as kiddie as it used to be. No surprise there. However, it may come as a surprise that the company that co-produced the show, in conjunction with Mirage Studios, Eastman's company, is 4Kids Entertainment. Yeah, the company famous for butchering anime to make it more kid-friendly. The internet still hasn't forgiven them for that One Piece dub. Ooh. I mean, yeah, they still couldn't say the word kill, but they managed to subvert the usual 4Kids treatment somehow. There's a surprising amount of on-screen deaths. The violence can be shockingly brutal, although never bloody. And there's a very specific continuity that the show follows, with several shifts in the status quo. Shredder is actually defeated pretty early on. You'd think after that everything be fine and dandy, right? Wrong. There's a power vacuum that fills up afterwards, and we see the Turtles struggle with the new villains that take the Shredder's place. Of course, he eventually comes back, but that's just because you can't waste a good villain like the Shredder. Speaking of the Shredder, he's not a bumbling idiot like in the 80s show where he was played for comic relief. He's a badass. I mean, look at him. He's nuts. He's really nuts. There's even a plot twist regarding his identity that's surprising and keeps things fresh. The show was constantly trying to push the limits of what was allowed by the censors. Baxter Stockman, a guy who in the original show was just a funny guy that gets turned into a fly, here is just a regular human. Until he fails to beat the turtles and gets mutilated by Shredder. For every time Stockman fails, Shredder dismembers him a little more, piece by piece, until he's literally just a brain in a jar. Gross! That's like something out of a horror movie, not a kid's show. But it's awesome. I guess they justify it by the fact that he actually creates robotic body parts to replace them, so you could call it an improvement. Probably one of the darkest episodes is when Donatello gets transported to the future, where the Shredder has taken over the world and Master Splinter and Casey Jones are dead. The Turtles decide to try one last-ditch attempt on the Shredder's life, and the resulting battle is one with the highest body count I think I've ever seen on a kid's show. It's ridiculous. People die left and right. There was an unfinished Season 5 episode that was planned where Hun and the Garbage Man were revealed to have been born as conjoined twins. They were taken to a back alley doctor, and the Garbage Man was surgically removed from Hun and left to die in the garbage. It's a really twisted premise and was shot down by the censors who claimed it was one step too far for a children's cartoon. I'd love to get my hands on the assets for this episode, as a script and even some animation were finished. Not having seen the episode, I can't say if it's any good, but it shows how far the creators were willing to push the envelope on what was acceptable for children's entertainment. It's certainly a far cry from the days where the word ninja was considered too violent in Europe, so they changed it to Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. After Season 4, another change in the status quo was decided on, and the Turtles were sent off to Japan, where they were trained by immortal ninja masters and gained mystical abilities. These episodes follow an even tighter continuity than normal, as each character's progression in training becomes a plot point. It's also a nice change of pace to see all of these exotic mystic environments, rather than the typical rooftops and sewers. All in all, it's a solid season, but the executives decided to go in a different direction, and the season Fast Forward was aired instead, in which the Turtles get flung into the future. The original episodes were later released as the Lost episodes, and on DVD as the Ninja Tribunal season. After Fast Forward, the producers decided to retool the show yet again, and Back to the Sewers was born. The Turtles' character designs received an upgrade, becoming overall more streamlined and slick. Also notable is the addition of pupils in their eyes, which had previously been all white. April's design got a do-over as well. This was done to make the show look more like the 2007 CGI film. The season finale ended with April and Casey Jones getting married, but that wasn't the end of the Turtles just yet. The true series finale came in 2009, with the TV movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles Forever. Celebrating the 25th anniversary of the franchise, this movie crossed over the 80s Turtles with the new ones. It makes references to almost all incarnations of the Turtles, even that weird direct-to-video anime that was only released in Japan. It's a great movie, one that ends with the Turtles going back to the black and white comic book world that started it all. I highly recommend checking it out, even if you're someone with only a casual interest in the Turtles. It's a crash course if ever there was one. Unfortunately, the DVD that was released by Nickelodeon is the shorter TV cut of the film, which was edited for time. And it's a full-screen presentation instead of the widescreen format the movie was intended for. As a result, most of the image is cropped out. Why the hell are they still doing this? This was made in 2009! It's a raw deal, and there doesn't seem to be any plans to re-release it to fix the problems. Importing the UK version is your best bet, but only if you have a region-free DVD player. It's annoying. In fact, trying to find the show at all on DVD is a pain in the ass. Originally, the show was released in single DVDs with 5 or so random episodes tossed in with no regard towards continuity. This just fucking pisses me off. I get that kids won't mind that episodes aren't in order, but think about it this way. Kids also won't be buying more than a few volumes. I know when I was young, I didn't have the complete series of Scooby-Doo on VHS. I had one tape. But now that I'm older, when I buy a show, I want the whole thing. Wouldn't it make sense to try and please the adult audience that will actually spend more money for the show instead? Sure, kids don't care if it's just random episodes, but they also wouldn't care if it would be in order. In order to watch the show this way, you have to buy all the DVDs, then follow along with an episode list, constantly taking out a disc, swapping it with the next one that has the next continuity episode, then putting it back, then taking that one out, then putting it in again, and taking out the other one. It's fucking asinine! To their credit, though, they got the release for Fast Forward correct. All of the episodes in order, spread across only 2 volumes with 13 episodes each. Finally! They did good again with the Ninja Tribunal season. Then they decided to go back and try again, releasing seasons 1 and 2 on DVD. Fans rejoiced, hoping beyond hope that we'd finally get the series on DVD with any sense of order, and then Nickelodeon bought the rights to the franchise and these releases came to a screeching halt. Season 2 Part 2 is now extremely rare and fetches extreme prices online, as does the Ninja Tribunal season. It's a miracle that I got the latter at all. I walked into a used games store and there it was, sitting on the shelf for only $10. They didn't know the goldmine that they had. Of course, I bought it right then and there. I'd say that $10 is a better deal than $137 used. Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, Season 7, Back to the Sewers, has never been released on DVD. They were so close, but then it got all screwed up. What a fucking mess. Nickelodeon has stated that if the new show and the upcoming live-action movie do well, they'll release the 2003 series on DVD in a proper format. Well, the new show has been doing extremely well. I mean, the toys are repeatedly sold out and it's getting solid ratings. But I'm not holding my breath on the movie. So will we eventually get the whole thing properly on DVD? Who knows? That the new show is doing so well proves that there's an audience for the Turtles still. So I guess anything's possible. The franchise is definitely, if you'll pardon the pun, evergreen. So there we go. That's the 2003 Ninja Turtles show. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that if you haven't already, that you'll check it out, if you can find it. And remember, Cowabunga!